So, good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Technical issues. Welcome to astronomy. Had some issues with the ASI Air software, so I had planned to actually be live a lot earlier, so this stream will actually be a little shorter than I had anticipated. So tonight I thought for a change we would take a look at some galaxies and a few other objects if we can. Right now, if you're looking at this, that little greenish blob in the center is actually a planetary nebula called the Owl Nebula, and you can probably see why it's called the Owl Nebula. Looks a little bit like an owl's face. This exposure I'm doing is 180 seconds, so we're not going to get a lot of detail out of that. This is, again, a planetary nebula, and in the very old days, some of these were mistaken for actual planets, hence why they call them planetary nebula. Sorry, I have some allergies going on, and it's been kind of one of those weeks. So, we're looking at the Owl Nebula for a minute here, and then we're going to move on to a few other quick targets. Unfortunately, have to work tomorrow, so I won't be on too late. So it's just doing another exposure on this. See if we get a little more detail. A little bit. Again, after this would be all processed and stacked, it would be a much nicer picture. Surprisingly, I didn't really do a great polar alignment here tonight, so I'm actually kind of pleased with the roundness of my stars. They are a little bit off, but not too bad, for the sake of just what we're doing tonight. There are a lot of other planetary nebulas out there, and hopefully at some point we will get a chance to look at some of those. What was interesting on this one is actually, if we look up here in the top right, we can actually see a galaxy. And I'm not quite sure which galaxy this is. I'd have to check. But it's an edge-on galaxy, and you can see the outline here. Again, after stacking many of these images and processing it, this would be a lot clearer than it is tonight, but just to give you an idea of some of the galaxies out there. We're actually, if you look at where it's located, M97 is located up here in the northwest right now. A little bit of information. Oops. So it also has a new galactic catalog name of 3587, NGC 3587. Also known as the Owl Nebula, and its apparent magnitude is 9.80. So in astronomy, the higher the number, the more distant the object is. So, you know, if you're looking at an object that's a magnitude 10 or 11, these are very faint objects in the sky and likely not visible to the naked eye at all. You would need a fair-sized telescope to see something of this magnitude. So planetary nebula is a favorite target of many observers. This nebula is visible all year round, but its low surface brightness can make it a bit of a challenge to locate. Small telescope in dark skies, you can see the owl's face, which we saw here, And M108 is less than a degree away, so that's probably what we're looking at. So the next target we're going to take a look at is much more distant than the Owl Nebula. It's actually M91. So we're going to search out M91. And we're going to see if that's in range yet for our telescope. Yep, just checking to make sure I'm getting audio. If you're hearing a clicking sound, I apologize. Having some audio issues as well at times. I'm going to try to bring that level down a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. So it's tracking in on its target right now. And it says the target is centered. We will see about that shortly. So we have to change the histogram a bit here to try and see the target. See if it in fact did center it. So we'll actually just go to auto to start with. And yeah, that's very faint, but I actually see, even in this image, I think I see 3 galaxies. One here, and then the central galaxy. So let's do 180-second exposure on that and see what we get. Can still hear people setting off fireworks outside from the long holiday weekend we had here. And unfortunately, the weather yet again has been a major factor in me being able to get on and do these broadcasts, and even doing any kind of imaging at all has been a real challenge. The seeing tonight is so-so. Transparency also so-so. But I did want to get on. It's been a while, and do a little bit of live broadcasting. Hopefully in the next few days we'll get some decent weather, and I can get back to imaging some of my targets. I've been working on M51, which is the Whirlpool Galaxy, and unfortunately we are coming sort of toward the end, well, partially toward the end of galaxy season, as we call it, and which is okay. I mean, we'll be moving in to look at some of the bigger nebulas in the coming months, and other areas of the sky as well of interest. North American Nebula is always a great target, and many others. The Heart and Soul, which are there, but not in my telescope range right now because of houses blocking me. They're below the horizon till quite late. I was quite disappointed. I was going to live broadcast the lunar eclipse that we had, but again, we got completely clouded out here, and that kind of just spoiled the whole thing. Just going to turn down, just monitoring my iPad in case anyone does pop on. Once again, this was kind of a unannounced live broadcast. Well, sort of unannounced live broadcast. So yeah, we got a couple of galaxies on the go here. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, my tracking went wacko here, so I'm going to shoot that again. And try to get that image a little darker so we can actually see something here. Yeah. As I said earlier, I had a bunch of problems with my software. By the time I got it loaded, it was already 10:15. So you can see, even in this image, 3 galaxies, maybe even more. Could be one over here too. So this is a very galaxy-rich area. Actually, maybe 4. So we have 4 galaxies. Let's just see if we can. Yeah, I'm just going to wait for the next image to pop up so we don't get those out of skew stars there. Hopefully not, anyway. My mount has been behaving oddly of late. Sometimes it's dead on. Other times it tends to drift a little bit. Probably time for a little bit of service on the mount. It's been in use since 2013 without any kind of maintenance, so it's probably way overdue for some. And we have about 75 seconds here for the next image to pop up. Hopefully it'll be a little better, and then I can make it a little clearer by moving the histogram around a little bit. Yeah, a lot of galaxies in this area, and galaxies, some varying sizes. Some are as large as we are, some are smaller than we are. I think the more I look at this image, actually, the more galaxies I'm seeing, which is really cool. It looks like there's another one here. That would be 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe one here. Looks like 6. So you have basically a chain of galaxies. And we're almost down to 10 seconds here, so let's see how that works out. And this is going to be completely blown out probably, but we'll have a quick look once it loads. And we got a satellite going through the image. So let's try to darken that up slightly. A little better. So let's turn that off. So let's zoom in on this top galaxy. As you can see, just begin to see the formation of the spiral arms of the galaxy. And if we scroll down, yeah, there's another one here way off in the background. And looks like, wow, maybe two more here. And let's see what else we got. Let's see if we can actually zoom in on. Yeah, this one is actually face on to us. Again, and I always say it, this is just a very raw image, and if I were to do a live stack on these, we would start to get a lot more clarity. So that was our target galaxy. And moving down the chain here. Looks like another spiral here. And one way over in the corner here. Again, with this one you can see a little more detail. Zoomed up, there's a lot of noise in the picture right now in the image. But that's pretty neat to see so many galaxies all at once in one image. I have a very wide field camera on here, the ASI 2600, which is a fantastic camera. It is a low noise camera, but again, this is 180-second image. Typically, I would stack an image hours worth of images to integrate. So I might take more than 200 of these images at 180 seconds or 120 seconds probably, and then stack them all together, and that's where you see those nice, beautiful, crisp images. So again, you can see another one, I think, over here. Let's double check that. It's way off to the side. Yep, it is a galaxy. Even more faded, and our universe is filled with countless galaxies. It's estimated that there are probably trillions of galaxies in the universe. That's the visible universe we can see. There could well be a lot more that we can't see, that are just too far away. The light hasn't reached us yet. Some of these galaxies, the light started traveling a very long time ago. So if you were to, for instance, look at NGC 4565, the Needle Galaxy, it's 30 to 50 million light years away. The center galaxy that we're looking at here, this guy, that's not very clear. Let's try a slightly longer exposure. This probably won't be very pretty at 5 minutes, but we'll give it a shot and see what it looks like. This galaxy, the light started traveling to us 60 million years ago. That's phenomenal. I mean, that's around the time, roughly, that the dinosaurs went extinct. So that'll tell you something. So you're looking back in history. Telescopes are really time machines. People talk about time travel. Well, if you own a telescope, you can time travel because you're looking back in history for the most part. Even the light from the moon takes a few seconds to reach us. So when you look at the moon, you're looking at it a couple of seconds as it was, not as it currently is, which always kind of freaks people out a little bit. I'm sure you've all heard that, you know, if the sun disappeared tomorrow, we wouldn't know it for 8 minutes. And that's true. That's how long the light takes to travel to us from the sun. Very distant. And some of these galaxies are just immensely far away. If you've ever looked at some of the Hubble pictures, like the Hubble Deep Field, where we're looking back in time to almost the beginning of the universe, it's just phenomenal. And the JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, will be coming online soon. I think it is pretty much all aligned now, so they're probably going to start doing some serious science, I believe, in July. And looking forward to seeing some of the amazing images that the JWST is going to produce. Uh, the JWST is different than the Hubble. It sees in a different range of light, so it can see through all the thick dust and gas clouds in the galaxy and through the galaxy that the Hubble cannot see through. So that's the big difference between the two. It sees in a higher wavelength. So, again, looking forward to some pretty spectacular images from the JWST when it finally does start doing some science. Again, hopefully sometime in July. So I want to thank you for viewing this, even though we don't have any live viewers tonight. Hopefully we will start to get more live viewers as summer comes through and we start to be able to get on the internet more often. If the skies stay clear, that is. And I do ask everyone if you would subscribe to the channel and hit notifications so that you know when we're going live. And that'll let you know that the observatory is live at that time. Subscribers will really help me to build the channel and increase the amount of viewers and all that kind of wonderful stuff. So the more people who get on, the more I'll be able to do this. No updates, by the way, for those who have been following the story of my unfortunate accident with my 14-inch Edge HD. It's still in California, still trying to put together the funds to repair it, over $4,500. But I am hopeful that at some point I'll be able to get that done. And yeah, it's a really expensive repair. So we're coming up on 10 seconds here for the next image. This is a 5-minute image. Not sure what we're going to get out of it because the sky is not at its best tonight, but it's the clearest we've had in 2 weeks. So let's see what pops out of this. It'll start to be probably very overexposed. And we will work on that. Yep. So we're just going to move the histogram preview over to there. And the stars are definitely askew. I didn't really set the mount up for long exposures like this. And yeah, it's did bring out a little more detail in some of the galaxies. You can see here a little more of the spiral arms, some other galaxy here. But you can see what's happening here. I'm getting kind of egg-shaped stars which means my mount is not aligned properly, and I kind of knew that going in tonight. I could shoot 120 seconds or so, but I'd have to have a much better polar alignment, which I haven't been able to do because of the weather. The good news is the tree that was blocking my ability to do an accurate polar alignment once spring came and the leaves started coming out, my neighbor cut it down. What a wonderful guy he was. So that tree is out of the way, so that will enable me to get longer exposures because I'll be able to do a more accurate polar alignment, which will be my next task once we get a bit of good weather here. So let's take a look at, see if we can get M3 tonight, which is a globular cluster. Oops. Again, my apologies for getting on late. So M3 is a much brighter target. It's a globular cluster, which is a cluster of 100,000 or more stars. They more or less orbit in just outside the Milky Way. And let's see what we got here. It's just doing what's called a plate solve at the moment, which is really an amazing way of doing this. Though a lot of astronomers will want to do what's called star hopping to find an object. If you're looking to do it in a hurry, things like the ASI Air and the software that I'm using here, which is the ASI Air software, to drive the mount and get to the target quickly and identify it and center it, is well worth the investment. Because really, as an astronomer, amateur or otherwise, you time is really always working against you. Okay, so let's do a quick zoom in on M3 here. Okay, there we go. So you can see M3 is a globular cluster. That was just with a quick 10-second shot. We're actually, let's try a 30-second and see what that gives us. You can see how bright these objects are. In darker skies, you can actually see some of these as naked eye objects. In the city, it's much more difficult, but even with a really small telescope, you can actually see these as, depending on the size of the telescope, will depend on the resolution you're going to get. Sometimes it'll look just kind of like a faint fuzzy object, but if you have a really good telescope, then you can actually make out the detail of the stars. So let's have a quick zoom in. There you go. That's a lot better. So you can see how dense the stars are in the center of the cluster. It's really pretty amazing to image these objects, and a lot of people don't bother imaging the globular clusters. Uh, I think they're great to image. Some of the first images I ever took were actually of globular clusters, uh, because they are so bright and pretty easy to image. Again, you can see stars, different colors within them, which is really fantastic. That you can actually see the colors. You can see some reddish stars here, and there's some blues in here. Right here we have a blue, which is a young hot star. The red stars tend to be older stars. And you can see the cluster actually extends out quite a bit from the center of it. Can you imagine what it would be like to live inside of one of these clusters where it's so bright you'd never, if you were on a planet orbiting one of these stars, you'd never really have night. You probably wouldn't even be able to do the kind of observations and imaging that I'm doing, because the bright sky would overwhelm any possibility of seeing dark and galaxies, and you may not even know you're inside or outside of a galaxy if you were living in one of these clusters. And there are a few of these around. One of the most famous ones is the Hercules Cluster, M13, Messier 13, that is, and then there's M5, M92, I believe, yeah, M92, which is sort of a sister cluster to the Hercules Cluster, which will image another night. Right now, at this hour, it is way too low on the eastern horizon for me to pick up with my, again, houses blocking me and trees and other things in my area. But as the summer progresses, it'll get higher and higher in the sky. And of course, the other battle we have is it gets dark as we get more into summer. Much later in the evening, it's really not even worth imaging right now till 9:30, 9:45 at night. Whereas in the winter time, by 5, 6 o'clock, you can be imaging, so you have a lot bigger stretch of time to image. Of course, if you're not fortunate enough, like myself, to have an observatory and a control room that I'm sitting in that's heated and kind of air conditioned in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you know, again, it comes down to time. You want to get as much time as you can. If the weather goes bad, if you don't have an observatory, it's certainly more difficult and more arduous to set up and take down everything. Couple of nights I've come out and it looked clear, and then by the time even just the short time it takes me to set up by basically plugging stuff in and opening the roof, clouds are rolled in, and you've lost the night pretty much. I don't know if you can hear that. People still setting off fireworks from Victoria Day here. So that's a globular cluster. Pretty cool to image. Let's just try one at 60 seconds and see if it gets even, well, it will get brighter. You can see as I zoom back out that this is one of the smaller clusters. The Hercules cluster is much bigger and has a lot more stars in it. So they have a quick thing in here in this software called Annotate, right? So it actually will, which is fantastic if you're just learning the night sky, it'll actually identify the target that you're on, which is really cool. I should have actually done that on those galaxies. Maybe we'll go back to that chain of galaxies, and that will identify all of those galaxies. So this is M3, also known as NGC, which NGC just stands for New Galactic Catalog, and it's given a number 5272. So let's see what we get at 60 seconds. Yeah, definitely brighter. Let's move that up to there. And that up to there. And zoom in. Yeah, so it picked up a little more detail. Some of these other stars you can see, again, how far out the cluster expands. These stars are all part of that cluster. Turn off the histogram so you can see. And there are even more faint ones. If I were to do a little bit longer exposure and stack this, you would definitely pick up the detail in these stars. But again, look at how bright that is in the center. It's just amazing. So much starlight. Okay, so let's for a second, as my time is getting short here, I see it's 11:01 already, take a look at M91 again. Boom. Just kind of going back to that because I wanted to do that annotation and have a look at exactly which galaxies are there. And my brain is not functioning because I know the name of this chain of galaxies, and it's just defeating me for some reason or other tonight. So it's going to load it quickly. So let's go to the histogram, flip it to auto here, and let's do 120-second, a 2-minute exposure on this, and then hopefully that will be enough for it to pick out the galaxies, and we'll see exactly how many it sees. So this is the Planetarium software I use. It's called Starry Night Pro. There's some free software out there called Stellarium, which is really fantastic as well. This is not a cheap program. You can run your telescope from it. I don't because I have the ASI-R and the ASI-R software. And for me, that definitely is the way to go. There's some other similar systems out there as well. that do close to the same thing, but they use other software. And I do have other software like Sequence Generator Pro, Nina, and some of the others, but I always keep coming back to the ASI Air software. They're always improving it. It actually even has a Planetarium software in it at the moment. Yeah, there it is. There, I know it was. I knew the name of it. So this is called Mccarran's chain. So it is a chain of galaxies, and for some strange reason, the name of it defeated me tonight, but that reminded me. So this is the chain of galaxies they're talking about. You can see how many galaxies are in there. What you see here is actually in the ASI software, and I really recommend if you're going to get started, take a look at this hardware and software. It's relatively inexpensive, and it certainly will save you a huge amount of time. Even doing your polar alignment will get you really close to do imaging, and you'll just be set to go. It's really worth it. So yeah, Mccarran's chain, that's what it is. Okay. And that's why Planetarium software like this, that's built into the ASI software, this is just in the new version, is really fantastic. So let's have a look at that from 120 seconds. We will turn off the histogram, go to tools, and annotate. Yeah, there you go. So this is the chain they're talking about. Nope, we have a satellite passing in the corner. So we've got M88, M91, NGC 4571, NGC 4569, which is M90, and NGC 4531. So if you were doing a Messier marathon, you could capture like three uh, Messier objects in one frame if you had a wide field camera. Like the ASI 2600 or a DSLR, even probably. So you can see uh, how handy it is to have this kind of software where it can just tell you what everything is, even if you don't know the night sky. Now, mind you, I advise everybody to get to learn to know the night sky. It's definitely fun to do, and you'll learn a lot by doing it, identifying the stars and the constellations on your own. But again, when you're imaging and you have so little good weather and time, uh, things like this just make life a lot easier and more puts better use to your time imaging for sure. So let's just zoom in on that so you can see. Uh, Again, there's M91. And if we zoom up here, we have M88, Messier 88, Spiral Galaxy. So that's the chain. So tonight you can say that you saw 5 galaxies in one image, which is pretty cool. So not going to be able to do a lot more tonight. I did have one other target. So we're going to do one called the Needle Galaxy, which is NGC 4565. So let's go to there, to there. So you can see how easy it is to use this software. I just type in what I'm looking for. It'll show you exactly where it is in terms of the hour of the day and its elevation. So it's right now just above 45 degrees. So you can see as the night progresses, this is the time. It'll get lower until it actually sets. So this happens to have a bunch of different names. So we're going to go to there, hit go to. So this galaxy, if we are able to pick it up, is actually between 50 and 60 million light years away. So, like I said earlier, that's kind of the time when the dinosaurs had gone or were about to go extinct, depending on your timeline. Okay, so that picked it up really quick. So we're going to have to adjust the histogram to start with because we'll just get a big black screen. Just do a quick auto set. And there it is, right in the center. So we're going to darken that up a bit so we can see it. Oop, that may be a little bit much. And if we go to Tools and Annotation, there you go. So actually, it's picked out another object here again, NGC 4494. So let's just zoom in and have a look at that. Sometimes if you're not looking for something in the background, it can be really difficult to see. So that's literally at the top of the screen. So we're going to have to go down quite a bit. You know what? I'm going to shoot my 120-second shot. So this is actually a little bit different type of galaxy. This is actually an elliptical galaxy. And the internet says it's about 45 million light years away. So that's pretty fascinating. That this guy up here is about 45 million light years away, roughly. You can see actually why NGC 4565, the Needle Galaxy, is called the Needle Galaxy. And you'll see that in a little more detail here with our longer exposure in a few seconds. And it's just loading up. know if you're looking at it on a small computer screen, it looks really small at the moment. Whoa. Okay. Let's start with an auto histogram. There we go. Bring that forward a bit. And let's do the annotation. So yeah, definitely you can see a lot more detail now. This is an edge-on galaxy, so you can see even with this relatively short unstacked or unprocessed image, you can see the core of the galaxy. You can see some of the dark dust lanes along here. Again, this is an edge-on galaxy, and it should be pretty obvious why they call it the needle galaxy, right? Looks like a needle. So that's kind of a cool-looking galaxy, and not everything in the universe is parallel to us in terms of on the same galactic plane. So this galaxy is again on an angle compared to where we are, and yeah, pretty interesting to see. I've actually never imaged the needle galaxy, so before the end of its reign in the sky, I'm going to try to do some imaging of it. A lot of people think, well, it's not a very interesting galaxy. You can't see the spiral arms and that sort of thing. But, you know, I enjoy every target I image. And let's see if we can get up to this elliptical here. Oh, we have a satellite that went through. And that's becoming more and more of a problem. There we go. So what is an elliptical galaxy? Well, it's just that. It's not a regular spiral galaxy like the Milky Way and some of the others that you've seen tonight. This is likely a galaxy that has had a collision with another galaxy and a merger of that galaxy. And let's zoom in on it here. Oh, no, it's not going to let me zoom in. That's, well, let's try that again, shall we? There we go. That is zoomed in. Duh. Yeah, so you can see it has nothing like the shape of the galaxy, like the Milky Way and some of the other, or even the Needle Galaxy. This is a galaxy that, as I said, has had a collision with another galaxy and merged together. And this is kind of what will eventually likely happen with our own galaxy and Andromeda. Once the two galaxies finally finish their merger, they'll kind of look like this. They'll become an elliptical galaxy. And that's what happens when galaxies actually collide, especially two large galaxies. So I think for tonight, folks, I'm going to call it an evening. I want to thank everyone who watches the video later on. If, again, you could tell your friends and subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely fantastic. Would help me out a lot. And hit that reminder bell there at on the site on YouTube so that you can tune into live broadcast. And hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more of these as the weather gets better. Uh, waiting for the weather to get better, that's the key to this whole thing. Anyway, thank you very much for those who watched the video. Tell your friends, and we'll hopefully see you again real soon.